Right. Well, good day to everybody. Good day, good day. Um Want to say what's going on to everybody and welcome you guys back to another episode of Prison Bosses Podcast, the number one podcast behind the walls, changing lives through real stories, real mindset shifts, and real conversations. First and foremost, we want to give a major shout out to our sponsor, Industrial Bank. Industrial Bank is one of only two banks in America that allows incarcerated individuals to open a bank account while still inside. So their commitment to financial empowerment and second chances is helping create real pathways forward for people impacted by the justice system. So major flowers to them. Today's episode, though, is a special one. I had an opportunity to meet this brother, Willie Cooks, at the NARP conference down in Little Rock, Arkansas. And after sharing some time with him, hearing his story, hearing his mindset, and hearing the way he views growth, accountability, and transformation, I knew right off the rip that we had to bring him on the Prison Bosses platform. So that way you guys could also hear it too. And so one thing that about us is one thing that we always say on this podcast is the people closest to the problem are often the closest to the solution. In conversations like this, well, they remind us that your past does not have to define your future at all. And so, whether you're listening to this from the inside the facility, maybe on your way to work, while you're building your new business, or even just rebuilding your life, looking for a little motivation to keep pushing forward, I can almost assure you that this episode is for you. And so, with that all said, I want to welcome my brother Willie to the platform. Willie, how you feeling today, brother?
Hey, I'm feeling good, man. I'm honored and pleasured to be before you, man. Being able to just provide this voice and this word to the people who can understand it due to the lived experience in which they have. You know.
Right. That's a fact,
Yes,
bro.
sir.
And so our pleasure to have you with us, man. Thank you for making time. One of the things I want to kick it off with is you telling us a little bit about yourself, man. I know from some of our conversations that, by the age of 11, you was the man of the house. So like, tell us what that was like before 11. How did you end up there? Give us your little backstory.
Yeah, man. So like I said, I came up young, father, mother separated by the age of 6 years old. I was house to house at the time. My mom was going through substance abuse disorder, and she was hustling at the same time. In which, by the age of
Mm-hmm.
11 years old, I kind of gravitated towards that due to me standing beside my mother in the midst of her pain. And man, I had to
Mm.
grow up fast. So by the age of 11 years old, I learned how to cook drugs, man. I learned how to hustle. I hung around people that was older than me, man. So they was kind of my role models due to what I was going through. Because at the time I didn't have no father figure. My father figure was the
Mm-hmm.
streets based on what I seen. So I gravitate towards that based on the dream and the desire, which was infatuated by due to the materialistic things that exist. And I felt like that was part of what I needed to cover up the pain in which I was enduring. So at the age of 11 years old, I didn't know anything about
Mm-hmm.
that. All I knew was just hustling, running cars, selling drugs, man, you know what I mean? And doing everything I needed to do, on the behalf of what my mom was going through. Because you got to understand, man, when you in a broken house, man, and you pretty much growing up in a trap house. I grew up in a trap house, man. Clients was coming in all night long, man, buying drugs, man, and smoking drugs. So I kind of seen that hand on, you know what I mean? Wearing down clothes, man, going to school, you know what I mean? So I had to find a way to provide for myself because there was nobody there to provide for me. You know what I mean? So, at the age of 11 years old, 12 years old, I jumped off the porch, man, and I went all in to the streets. By the age of 14, 15 years old, I kind of had everything a grown man had. You know what I mean? And by the age of 15 years old, I kind of went off to prison. I went off to prison, but my dream was to go to the military. My dream was to, be able to do something positive with my life. But at the same time, that wasn't given because all the role models around me that I had around me was people who was pretty much in the streets, And like I said, I came up hard. So it was either fighting, hustling, or doing something to get by to try to prove yourself
Right.
to people who, when as I look at it now, really didn't even care, man. You know what I mean? So as yeah, man, and so when you're young and you caught up pertaining to the hope and the desire of things, and you feel as if those things exist and mean something due to what makes you feel relevant, then oftentimes you feel like that is what allow you to have the ego and the arrogance that you need to feel as if you really didn't need nobody, and you feel as if at a young age you a man. In reality, is I wasn't really a man because I was lost. I was lost of hope,
Little
bro.
boy.
I was
Right.
lost of hope.
Yep.
I came from a sense of neglect. I came from a place where only how I was accepted because of what I really had, not so much who I really was. You know
Who
what
you
I mean?
were. Right. Right.
Like I say,
I would imagine at 15, like you said, if you had the things 14, 13 that grown men had, people looked at you as a meal ticket. People your age probably looked up to you for the things you had acquired and what you were doing. And then people older than you were looking at you like, yo, they wanted in on what you had going on, I would assume,
man,
right?
most definitely. So let me get more raw than that. Even when it came to grandparents, bro, you know what I'm saying? I kind of provided for my
Mm,
grandparents because nobody was allowing you to
mm,
stay in their house unless you had something to give them, bro. Or if there was a check coming in for you. You know what I mean? Even if you was the father child or the mother child, man, people wasn't really embracing you as a grandchild, man, if it wasn't that they was able to get a check or there was some kind of money given to them in order for them to take care of you. So I understood all that at a young age, man. So I kind of paved the
that's
way
real.
for myself and was able to pave a way to open up doors to what my grandparents had, man, because I understood what it was,
Mm,
and I was pretty much
mm.
1 inch away from a foster care. You know what I mean?
Now, well, Willie, so quick question for you. Pops and mom split at 6. Um, where I know you talk about by 11 was it by 11 your mom ends up going to the feds?
Yes.
And so what happens to your pops? Where's he
Well,
at?
my pops at the time, he had, at the time, my father kind of moved on with his wife, you know what I mean, taking care of her and
Mm,
her kids, you know what I mean, and was able to come visit here and there. But at the same time, I always wanted to be up under my mother because I've seen the pain straight up. So I wasn't, I was already locked in, man, because even though on my father's side, it was more structure for me, more discipline and more
right,
order.
right, right, right.
I didn't feel as if I wanted that because I had more freedom with my mom, you know what I mean?
Yes, indeed.
So
Yes,
I
indeed.
kind of went
We tend
towards
to
what,
gravitate towards that
yeah, I
freedom.
went towards what I thought was the freedom because I was able to do what I want
Yep.
to do and how I want to do it at a young
That's
age and
right.
go where I want to
That's
go.
right.
And,
That's right.
have time, have to come home, 2, 3 days at a time.
Right. What so now you're 15 and you go off to prison, you say, for the first
Yes.
time. So what's that charge and how much time do you end up doing?
So I end up for trafficking cocaine, manufacturing, delivery. At the age of 15, I was finally caught with 2 ounces of cocaine at the time. You know what I mean?
Dang. 15 with 2 ounces.
Yeah, and I ended up getting sentenced, didn't know anything about the system. So when I go in
Mm-hmm.
the system, I never had the opportunity to go to a juvenile youth program, none of that. You know what I mean? It was
Mm,
adjudicating as an adult from the detention center to the county jail. From the county jail, I signed up for a year. Didn't know anything about the system. Had a public defender. Didn't know what I was really facing, but I thought it was cool because everybody who pretty much I came up around and was rolling with, a lot of them was in the jail with me. You know what I mean? So a lot of
right.
time,
Right.
nobody was able to provide information or knowledge because we took everything for granted based on what exists behind the walls. You know what I mean? And that was playing
Right.
cards, playing dominoes, rapping, playing. We never really took initiative based on the system itself, understanding what the system was designed for. You know what I mean? So at the same time, a man of perish for the lack of knowledge. When you don't know, you fall a victim to those things that is unknown based on what you
Sir.
can't see.
Yes, sir.
So I was a
Yes, sir.
victim of that. You know what I mean?
Mm,
Um, they came at me. They came at me with 6 years. Came down from 6 years to 4 years, and I jumped on the 4 years. You know what I mean? When at the same time, I didn't even
mm.
score out enough to even go to prison, fam. You know what I
Right,
mean? I
right,
took the
right. So
time.
you
I took
15,
I took the time
you
because
15
I didn't know the system, and I'm looking at what I got caught with at a young age, thinking I would get more time for it. You know what I
more
mean?
time.
So I
Right,
kind of
right.
jumped on
You
it.
don't know no
Yeah,
better.
I kind of jumped on
You
it
ain't
and
know no
ran with
better.
it.
You know what I mean?
I kind of jumped on it and ran with it. Then I found myself with a little broad who I was with. You know what I mean? That was my little lady. She jumped ship after a year after me being locked up. You know what I mean?
Of
I'm
course.
in there.
15. Yeah, of
You know
course.
what I'm saying? I'm
Yeah,
in there.
yeah.
I'm trying to do my time. I'm caught up with her on my mind. You know what I mean? I got dudes in the cell, the same dudes in the cell rocking with me. That was kind of like my homie was the same one messing with her. So I was kind of able to get through that. You know what I mean? Once I got shipped off to I got shipped off to Lake Butler. Lake Butler was up north where, it's kind of redneck, a redneck facility. You know what I mean? That's kind of one of our transits. So I got shipped up there in Lake Butler. Once I got to Lake Butler, man, at the prison, I kind of knew that, hey, man, I'm all in. You know what I mean? Because at the time, the facility itself was, you got correction officers jumping on you, killing brothers that look like me, man, coming out of jail. They really didn't like people from down south. So there was a lot of things going with that systematically. So I pressed that. I ended up getting shipped to a camp called Lancaster CI, which was a youth offender camp. End up going to there. Then I end up getting shipped from there, going to something CI. You know what I mean? And so me doing my time, while I was doing my time, I was young. So everything was about working out, you know what I mean, and educate. I knew then I had to educate myself. So I educate myself to be more powerful. I did my time. I got out December 4th, 1998. I went to a work release program, was released from that. Same time I got a work release program, I had saved up some money while I was in work release. The first thing I did when I came home was, man, I put all that money and I purchased more product.
I knew it.
I purchased more product. You know what I mean? I kind of said
right
no
back at
spoiler,
it. Right
but
back
I was
at it.
right
We
back in it. So
bigger and better.
I went through trials and trials, man, of chasing money, man, because I feel like that what I needed to keep myself relevant, not knowing that money don't make everything, fam. You know what I'm saying? But when you're young and you don't know no better and you feel like this is just what life is based on what was given to me, based on we try to use all these different systems as a way to try to make those as excuses saying, man, I got to do this to live. I got to do this to survive. I got to do what I got to do. No matter how I got to do it, I'm going to be like 50, man. I'm going to get rich and I'm going to die trying. You know what I mean? And so that's the mentality I had. To be honest with you, that's the mentality I had. Get rich and die trying, man. Whatever I got to do to feel like I can stand on myself without me needing nobody else, man. This is how I'm living. This is what I'm doing. You know what I mean? So I was able to build my own little team, man. You know what I mean? I was able to build my own little team up under me, man. I was able to take care of everybody, you know what I mean, and do what I need to do. But at the same time, man, that love was far-fetched, you know.
It's a fact.
I went through so many areas of that. So I went through four streams of incarceration. I've been to prison 4 times, fam. I've been to prison.
Wait, real quick, Willie. Before we go on to that, I just want our listeners a couple of things I want to emphasize for them, just to make sure they caught some of these jewels. One of the things was you talked about early on when you first got into jail, how you just following others, like you was following the leader, basically following others, people who you knew this was the trajectory, this is what you saw, and so it just is what it is. The second thing, I want to talk about how important it is to be the leader, not to follow others, because we see how that changes things.
Yes.
The second thing is when you said when you got in there, no matter what, you always was focused on your education. Like you wanted to educate and better yourself.
Right.
I think that's huge. Now, at the time, you were educating yourself, getting yourself stronger physically, surrounding yourself probably with some negative influences, which then led you upon release to jump right back into those things. But I can't express how important the educational piece is for everyone, because while we're in there, or even if you're home and you're listening to this, we got to be continued learners. We got to always continue to educate ourselves. And then instead of putting ourselves around people who are liabilities or people who could cause harm to us or take us down, we just got to surround ourselves with assets. And I'm sure later on, as we explore, I know you just mentioned you have been incarcerated 4 times. I'm quite sure somewhere in that incarceration, in one of those periods, you started to identify the importance of surrounding yourself with good people. And so with that being said, I'll kick it back to you. You just said that you've been incarcerated 4 times in total.
4 times, man. And then the craziest thing about it is that I always had potential. You know what I mean? I always knew of myself that I deserve better and I can do better. So I always had 1 foot in and 1 foot out. You know what I mean? And I only was doing what I need to do on the 1 foot out was because I was just trying to maintain things to where things can become better. Right? Once I came home in 98, I ended up having a little boy, you know what I mean? My son, right? And as I had my son, I was going through trials, ended up catching another case, suspended license. I went to prison twice for driving out no license, bro. I did a year and a day in prison, and I did 18 months in prison just for not having no license. Because I refused to do county time. They offered me a year in the county. I said, no, I ain't taking no county time. Just send me to prison, because I knew if I go to prison, I could get work release. Right? I could come home with some money, because I knew that if I do go to prison and come out with some, if I do go to prison and come out, I'm gonna still need finances. The county jail ain't gonna give me that. Right? So I was looking at it from that standpoint. So even though every time I went to incarceration, I always educated myself and I stayed into programs. You know what I mean? In spite of everything, I always stayed educated in the programs. Then my third term of incarceration allowed me to look at my history. Because then I had to identify who I really am. Who am I? What is my purpose? Right? So then the fourth time I went to prison, I then started identifying that what I need to focus on was self-development. And self-development,
there it is.
Yeah, and self-development came from the fact that, okay, bro, you got potential. You know what I mean? You got leadership ambitions. You got the potential to lead and guide. You know what I mean? You know who you are, but you didn't have the right people around you that really believed in you. Everybody was around you that became yes men, so you really didn't see the provision of what you can do for yourself. So that was the terms that I was going throughout life. And everybody around me was only around me based on what I was able to provide for them, bro. My fourth time in prison came from me, from the same very people that I was helping, fam. But the same people that was putting the police on me. Right? So then they started investigating me, and everything started leading to traffic stops. So I'm wondering, like, dang, I ain't out there every day. Why are these things happening? You know what I mean? Until I actually get inside prison, I started looking at my paperwork. Everything being identified to the same very people that I'm rubbing shoulders with.
Come on, man. That'd be the saddest part. Sometimes it'd be the people right next to us. Oftentimes it's the people right next to us that lining us up at the same time. One other thing you said that was powerful, and I can't let it go overlooked, is personal development.
Yes.
Yo, I tell people on this platform, I tell people in my everyday life, you know, I wouldn't be able to have built the things that I've built and do the things that I do if it wasn't for personal development. And I personally believe life is like the largest do-it-yourself project you'll ever be a part of. And if it's a do-it-yourself project, the most important person in it is going to be self. And so we have to pour into ourselves. And I'm so happy that you identified that. And so now you identified that the people around you they lined you up on the fourth bid. You can't even trust the people around you, but you've also working on your personal development. You're finding your purpose. You mentioned having one foot in, one foot out. Is this fourth bid the time that you actually put both feet out and decide I'm going to do something different?
Yeah, so my fourth bid, when I went inside the incarceration, bro, the last time I went to prison, I went to seeing all that, and then what it did was it allowed me not to really trust, because I was hurt. So I said, how could I be able to rise above the circumstance and not holding on to my pain due to those same very people that I loved on, that I thought loved me, but really didn't love me, fam? You know what I mean? So once I really identified that I really didn't have true love around me, while I was incarcerated, I participated in every program that they had available, bro. If I was in the trenches inside of a prison, I want to move. I want to be in an area, bro. I want to be in an area where it was faith-based. It was somewhere where I could be able to grow without any kind of other activities going on, because I knew that this is what I'm going to have to surround myself around while I'm in prison. So therefore, I can develop the mindset. You know what I mean? To be able to look at and identify who I really am, and then look at, like I said, first, self-development. So once I started focusing on self-development, I started evaluating what was my hindrance. My hindrance was people, places, and things.
Talk it.
Right?
Talk it.
People, places, and things was the same very items that was victimizing me. I couldn't really see it because I was pretty much caught up with just that environment, not knowing that I had the potential to be better. So I had to put myself in position to do better.
Talk that.
So once I was incarcerated, I lost my mother while I was in prison. Right?
Sorry to hear that.
So So listen, I lost my mother while I was in prison. And I'm going to tell you that gave me the greatest strength, because as I went through that, I didn't look for any kind of sympathy. I didn't look for any kind of no one to actually love on me through that process. I had to figure it out myself and say, you know what, I'm going to have to be strong, because I was built to be strong. She raised me to be strong, but she raised me to be somebody, to not be stuck and have the mindset to feel like I have to allow what I go through dictate who I am and where I come from, to dictate my journey, right? So I participated in every program, from peer-to-peer program to every program that the prison had to offer. You know what I mean? Then I started separating myself from people. I didn't want to get caught up in certain things, so I kind of stayed to myself and worked out, but I also was focused on working out on my mind, my body, and my spirit. You know? So once I came home, once I came home at EOS, and once I came home, but the first thing I did was I didn't even give myself a chance. 3 days after I came home, man, I end up reaching out to the reentry center. I reached out to the reentry center, and I say, hey, man, y'all, I'm gonna come to sign up. I had came to the reentry center, signed up for reentry. A couple days later, they say, hey, man, we got an on-the-job training program where you're gonna wash the cars, and we'll just pay you so much. We'll pay you so much a week. You know, you work 3 days a week, and we'll give you a stipend for like $450. I said, hey, man, I'll take that, you know? Because I understood that in order for me to rise above the circumstances in which I face, I'm going to have to take P off of pride, and I'm going to have to ride with whatever God has for me. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
So I took the P off of pride, and I rolled with the situation based on the limited opportunity that I had, because I knew that my mission was a bigger picture, because I painted that vision for myself. Because, you know, and the reason why I painted that picture for myself, because I knew what skills I had in the street, but I knew that in order for me to manifest any kind of greatness out of the situation that I face, I'm going to have to transfer these same manageable skills into a manageable lifestyle.
That's right. Transferable skills. We all got them. That's a fact.
So I was able to utilize them same gifts and talent that I had from the street, bro, and utilize in my own personal life. You know what I mean? So as I was on the job training program, bro, I was out there 3 days. The first day I was out, I got on Google, and I went on Craigslist to find a job. So I end up getting a resume, and I'm emailing resumes on Craigslist. You know, and then while I'm on the job training program, one day on my break, Mr. Allwall Newbold, which is the coordinator now at the reentry center, say, hey, man, we're going to go get something to eat. I say, no, right now, I'm going to go ahead and make a phone call, and I'm going to follow up on this application that I put in. So when I follow up on the application that I put in, the man answered the phone and said, hey, how you doing? I said, hey, man, I'm just following up on my application that I put in. He said, I noticed you've been calling for the last couple of days. I said, yes. And I'm calling because, you know, I have the ambition to drive. I have the gift to do whatever opportunity and job, you know, that presents itself to me, you know, and I want to be able to follow up on the application to see where we stand at with employment. The man said, tell you what, can you come in Monday? He hired me. So I wasn't on the job training program. I didn't wait for me just to rely on the little opportunity of dollars that was coming to me based on what was presented. So when I did that, I ended up working at the warehouse. I worked at the warehouse for like 3 months, bro. I worked there for 3 months. I became a warehouse supervisor.
3 months.
In 3 months, I became a warehouse supervisor. I became a warehouse supervisor in the shipping department. I end up working there. So as I'm doing that, I'm taking up courses now. I get a phone call from Rebel Recovery. I get a phone. I'm going to tell you how good God is. I got a phone call from Rebel Recovery, and they say, hey, man, tell you what, do you want to become a certified peer recovery specialist? It's going to be 5 days. So how are you going to be able to make it? So what I did was I took 5 days off on my PTO time. Remind you, I'm on this job for like 7 months now, right? I'm 5 months away from a year being at this job. But what I did was I used 5 days of PTO time, and I went out there and did that training for 5 days. I was sharing my story inside the classroom. As I was sharing my story inside the classroom, based on me understanding, I know what homeless look like. I know what battling addiction look like. I know what selling drugs look like. I know what struggle looked like all together because I witnessed it. I was able to share that same story in front of all these white folks, man. You know what I mean? And they sitting there looking at me like, dang, your story is powerful, impactful. After I end up doing the certification class, the man say, hey, if there's any way that you would like to work in the recovery field, because we need more people like you who have lived experience. Remind you, I'm fresh out of prison. I ain't been out a year now.
Not even a year.
So what he did was he said, okay, well, tell you what, are you looking for a job? I said, hey, man, you know, if it's going to pay me a little wages that's better than what I got. Yes, so he said, well, tell you what, I can start you out at, he said, I can start you out at 18, right? You know, this is a living testimony. He said, I can start you out at 18. I said, well, I'm making that already. You know what I'm saying? And I say, you got to understand the traveling time and this, that, and that. So he said, well, tell you what, just think about it. So I went almost a whole year, right? I went off almost a whole year without even taking the opportunity. So then he called me back maybe 8 months later. He said, tell you what, we're opening up a new office out in the western part of Palm Beach County. He said, what I would do is I'm going to start you this amount of money and I'm going to give you gas reimbursement. Right? So now I'm doing gas reimbursement, bro. I'm almost at $30 an hour. But this is my opportunity. They had a B Corps program, which called Build the Community of Recovery, right? They had got a grant for that specifically program. And what that program consists of is you going out in the community. You got to understand, this is the roughest part of the community that you go into.
Boots to the ground.
But I knew that God, I say everything that I'm doing is because God put me in a position to do it. Because he said, I will build my strongest soldiers to go out and do this type of work. And everybody ain't built to go out here among these type of individuals. The same way in the book told Jeremiah about, he was like, hey man, how you gonna put me in the midst of these stubborn neck people? Right? He said, be strong and of good courage, because you were built to do this. Right? So I went out in the community, bro. I worked hand and feet. I rubbed shoulder with those who were homeless, those who were battling addiction. I was going to all different type of organizations, building connection and resources. I was taking people myself to the Social Security card, go get Social Security card ID, putting them in shelters, taking them to a drug treatment program, finding housing for them, man. And I did that for a whole year straight. I took that B Corps program that didn't have no numbers I had over 80 individuals that I was pretty much had as clients. Out of 80 individuals that I had, bro, 60 of them were successful.
Come on now, church. Let's go.
60 of them were successful. So the moment I started going to meetings, hear me out. I started going to meetings now. I'm already doing this field of work. So I'm going to meetings, and as I'm going to meetings, I'm having a voice. But my voice is only based on what I don't see in the community. I'm not seeing people out in the community who walking side by side, hand by hand with these individuals. I'm seeing people who feel as if they will provide information to individuals without even providing them service and then giving them false dreams of hope. So people oftentimes giving up. This is all I'm seeing. I'm not seeing, I see people worried about getting grants and getting funding, but they're not doing the work to try to help the people get to where they need to be. So this is the voice that I'm spreading.
That's a fact.
That's a fact. So as I'm doing this type of work, I'm making a major impact in the community. I brought the B Corps program from it was failing to succeeding. Then I end up, and it's crazy. I'm gonna tell you how I got all this. So now I end up going from that to where the coordinator, the director of the reentry center, we all were sitting at a meeting. It's all the commissioners, all the mayors, and all these different political people in the room. And we speaking about how could we be able to better the Western community. And I'm the voice for the Western community because I'm the one that's out in the trenches. I'm in the field.
You really out there.
I'm boots on the ground. So I'm providing information to them, which they really didn't. They overlooked. They overlooked all this. And I'm like, how could we overlook these issues when you have all these community providers coming out built trying to establish brick and mortars, but there's no work being applied for the sake of the people, right?
Now,
So,
come on.
moment that meeting ended, the director for the reentry center said, "Hey, man, tell you what, we want to try to bring you on the team. Tell you what, go online for the city, go online for the city of Riviera Beach and fill out an application, right?" So, and I'm like, he's like, "Yeah, I want you. I want you." So he went, and I went on the city of Riviera Beach. You got to understand, it's a government municipality job, right? This for the city.
Yep.
So the city got a
Yep.
reentry center that the department. So they end up hiring me. They end up hiring me at the reentry center with a record, fam. Mind you, I only been out of prison a year and a half.
Is that the same reentry center that you first went to for the first
That's the
time
same
after that
reentry
fourth
center
bid?
that I went to participate in that program. The same
Yes,
program that
sir.
I participated in to try to get services was the same, end up being the same reentry center I end up working.
Yo, Willie, real quick, I gotta highlight this because this is so powerful. Um, I gotta highlight a couple of things you said for our listeners. So look, this brother bossed up, right? For real. And a couple of things he said. While he was incarcerated, he realized he had to change people, places, and things. And he started on that fourth bid by separating himself from people in the dorm who just was on that BS. He had to lock in and make sure he was surrounding himself with good people or even isolating himself if need be. That's a message for all of us. It starts on the inside and it starts with how you move. And if you can eliminate the people who got them stories, you know, we all know when you locked in, you around some great storytellers at times, and you got some brothers and sisters who they'll tell you all about. They had helicopters, they was getting it from Guatemala, delivered right to the front door kind of stories, knowing damn well that ain't the case. And so you could have removed yourself from that and put yourself around some OGs, some people that's talking some positivity, doing some good shit. You know, that's gonna help. The second thing you can't overlook in this man's story is his persistence and his ability to take initiative. So he came home to the reentry center, something he never did before, a new initiative, and he didn't stop. He took the first opportunity they gave, workforce program, cleaning vehicles. He didn't stop there though. He was persistent. Let me start applying for jobs, other places while I'm here on the job. Matter of fact, while y'all going to have lunch, let me take these interviews. Let me position myself. Ended up getting a better job. Boots to the ground, working hard, giving to the community, and he created good luck for himself by way of going back to that reentry center in front of elected officials and being able to share insights from the community, being the voice. And that then landed him in an opportunity where now they hired him, someone who formerly an ex felon, into a position like this. And so, like, I'm just moved by it because one, I know even in my story, from going from a janitor to then be to working my way to general manager, it all stops with being persistence. It all starts with, you know, believing in yourself, putting yourself in position, and no matter what, not stopping. Just keep going and keep bettering yourself. This man went and got certificates while he was working full time. Even though he had another position, he was bettering himself through that education, which he started to do while he was incarcerated. And so just so many jewels in there, even down from taking the P off of pride and riding out,
Yeah.
understanding, you know, you in the passenger seat and letting God or Jesus take the wheel. And so I just couldn't let none of that stuff go overlooked, Willie, because I mean it's powerful and I need our listeners to understand like this is what it takes. This is the hard work that we talk about. This is the mindset
Yeah,
shift.
and the mindset shift is very important, right? So reentry, and then we got to understand reentry start from the moment you get in that police car going into incarceration, right? So we understand that once you get inside those facilities, man, it's only two type of people that do time. It's one who use time and one who do time. One who use time is going to educate themselves. One who do time, they're just going to get caught up on the commissary and all these different things that the penitentiary had to offer without no tools that will allow them to become more developed. Because we understand that isolation brings elevation, right? And so I was able to go through all that, man, and the outcome came efficiently. So while I was working at the reentry center, in the midst of me working at the reentry center, I started traveling. I started being a voice. I'm a reentry advocate, which means that now they put me as a reentry advocate. So now I'm the voice for reentry, right? So I established
Come on.
I oversee case management, work with case management. While I was at the reentry center, I was able to get all different type of certifications. I was able to go off to Yale University to be at Yale
Come
University
on. Come
2025,
on.
Yale University
Let's
cohort
go.
to become a reformer for the Reform Alliance Institute that helped pass bills, laws, and policies for those who've been justice impacted.
Yes,
I'm
sir.
an active member of the Florida Safety Coalition.
Mm.
I'm the chairman advisory board member of the Live Experience Advisory Board for Palm
Talk it.
Beach County. I
Let's go.
do so much different things. I'm actually active advisory board member of the Palm Beach County Sheriff Department Youth Development and
Ooh.
Gang Prevention Program.
Come
I get
on.
involved. I go inside the institution, the Palm Beach County Youth institutions and academies to speak to the youth that has been impacted due to wrong decision making. I teach
Mm-hmm.
them cognitive thinking plans and all those things that eliminate the thought of them feeling as if they need other people to rectify who they really are or verify who they really are, which they really don't.
Yes,
So
sir.
I teach these things, and I give a large part of me based on the fact of how I came up. Bro, I came up without anything, man. I had to find my own way. You know what I mean?
Come on.
So I pressed through life understanding that I am somebody. And
Ooh.
I had to figure it out. And while I was able to figure it out, it landed opportunities for me to be where I'm at now. So I'm able to travel different places. I think when I seen you, brother, I just had came back from another returning citizens uh, conference the week before, right?
Come
So,
on.
it gave me the opportunity to be a voice, but it also opened up doors for opportunities and break down barriers that most people wasn't able to break
Yes,
down.
sir.
So I'm a living
Yes, sir.
testimony of someone who can say, hey man, people tell me with a felony, I couldn't be this, I can't be that. But don't you know I was able to get a job for the city of
Come
Revere
on now.
Beach Reentry Center, and I also got a job for the Palm Beach County Central Palm Beach County Central Housing Resource Center, right?
Come on
And what
now.
that
Come
is
on.
that's a shelter, right?
Mm.
So I was working at the shelter overnight, and I would work at the reentry center from 7 to 5 in the afternoon. And then I was
Come
going to
on now.
school, and I was able to graduate from the Criminal Justice Academy, right? So I was doing all these things at the same time, bro, because I knew that I had to
Mm-hmm.
have the skills. I knew that I had to have the drive and the ambition in order to see my
Yes.
way out. And I understood that if I don't put in the work, I can't look for nobody to open up any door for me. That where I'm not
Nope.
able to be a blessing for
Nope.
them, right? So I
That's
want to
right.
have the
Nobody
tools
coming to
that
save us.
I need to have the tools that I need to be able to build on. So therefore, as I connect with individuals, I can build with them as well. So we build a building empire to where we're all on the same page to create a mission that allows us to give back and reach and touch and elevate those people who is in need.
Come on, Willie. Yo, Willie, man. Yo, I gotta give you flowers, bro. Like, you came home and you really turned it up a notch, bro.
Yes,
And I mean, I love that you said there's a difference between using your time and doing your time. I hope our listeners, especially our incarcerated listeners, get that. Because yeah, you could do the time, but more importantly, use that time to your advantage to better yourself. The other thing is, I love that you said earlier on, you reference not feeling like somebody, but by the end today, you know I am
I am
somebody.
somebody,
And
bro. I'm somebody.
RIP to Jesse Jackson, you know what I
That's
mean,
right.
for running out with that quote. RIP to him. But like, you are somebody, I am somebody, our listeners are somebody. And like you said, no one's coming to save us. And so going out and getting all of these certificates, building your knowledge, positioning yourself. And I'm a fan, I believe, luck happens, but I also believe we create our luck. And I've learned the harder I work, the luckier I tend to get. And so through hard work, we change our circumstances, we change our luck. And Willie, you are, my friend, a definition of prison boss, like someone who's been incarcerated, really been there, done that, but has now leveled themselves up, giving back to the community, empowering others, and a boss in the true sense of the word.
Absolutely.
And so, brother, I really appreciate you, man. 100%. I appreciate all you've done. One thing we ask all of our guests on the show, as one of the final questions, is what advice would they give to themselves? So looking back at you, I know the first time you were incarcerated was 11, right?
Yes.
So what what advice do you give to the 11-year-old Willies or those who are in 11-year-old mindset right now? What advice would you go back and give that young version of yourself?
Oh man, the advice that I would give to individuals that's young, rather if they from 18 to 22 years old, is just to take your time and understanding who you really are, and don't look for people to validate who you are. Right?
Mm, mm,
Move
mm.
at your own pace. Stay in your own lane. You know what I mean? Focus on your education because your education is going to dictate your future. You know,
Oh
and
yeah.
because once you educate yourself and then you understand history, then you'll know who you are. If you don't know who you are, you don't know your history, you don't know who you are. So we oftentimes become stripped of history because we don't know who we really are, and we become lost. So we start picking up trends of things that other people bring to the table because that's what makes us relevant, and it really don't. You know what I mean? So we'll
Mm,
find ourselves living
mm,
a lie. The whole entire time,
mm.
bro, I found myself living a lie, fam. You know what I mean?
Talk
I
that.
was chasing
That's a fact.
fake dreams and fake hope when it was no hope and no there was not anything there that would give me that insight or tool to know that that better was greater for me. You know what I mean?
That's
And
right.
that's all the
That's
streets
right.
has to offer for us. It does not offer
Talk that.
us a tool. It don't offer us a place or a platform to
Mm.
build off of. It was designed
Nope.
for us to decrease rather than increase. So then we
Watch.
don't become unified together. We don't have systems that helps us elevate. You know, we don't
It's a fact.
invest into the community. We don't do these things. We actually is destroying the community versus helping the community.
Come on
So
now.
what we want to try
Come
to
on
do
now.
is teach our youth how to build in the community, and then we need to continue to teach financial literacy.
Yes, sir.
You know,
Yes, sir. That's
it,
and I gotta with you saying that, like, to the point where that's why I always tell people the places we come from, oftentimes a lot of us, it's called the projects, it's called the trap. Like none of this has a positive
no,
meaning behind it.
that's right.
In fact, if you look at a project, the project is just see how this turns out. Let's put these people in this community with no resources and let's see how it turns out. Or if it's a trap, let's put these people in a trap house and let's see how they escape this
And it's strange
circumstance. And
that you
so,
say that, right?
feel
Because
me?
when we
You feel
understand from
me?
the educational part, we understand what a project looked like. A project,
Talk it.
like you said, a project is something that you place together just to see how it works. You know what I
Yep.
mean? To see
Yep.
how we can
Yep.
actually implement systems to destroy them and see how they will
Come
work
on.
themselves out of it. Then you look at the
Come on.
trap. The trap, exactly what it sounds like. It's all a trap. It was designed to mass incarcerate, and it was designed to uh, uh, implement modern day genocide in a black community among people who
Mm,
look just like
mm,
us, bro. To where we don't have
mm.
anything, and then we won't have anything to stand on based on what we're seeing now. You know, in our community, bro, you're looking at all these different systems that were designed to keep us stagnated. So therefore, those who superior will always be a power, and we'll always be viewed as the lesser man.
You ain't lying. You preaching right now, brother. And that's so true, man. And all of that's fact. And that's why, like Willie said, go back and educate yourself on history. It's not by accident or coincidental that the history of those who originate from Africa has been taken away from us. Oftentimes it's because they don't want you to know your greatness or the things that have taken place prior to the negative. You be your family coming from slavery or your family being one of the natives and ran off of their land. And so it's always a negative connotation, which has been fast forward to us now living in the projects and the traps. But it's up to each and every one of us, and we all have the opportunity to change those outcomes. And my brother right here, Willie, is another prime example of that, just like myself. And so that being said, Willie, I want to first thank you again, but more importantly, I want to give you flowers again. And I want to give you your flowers like I try to do to everyone as of late and welcome them you guys as a part of the Prison Bosses alumni. Meaning you're somebody who's come home, experienced incarceration, rough childhoods, came through all of those negative barriers, and today have positioned yourself to be a true not just a leader, but a real boss. And I mean a boss in the sense of you are a boss in what you do, but you're a real boss because of how you uplift others in your community. We need more OGs. We need more bosses like that. It's a lost cause. And so for that reason, brother, I am honored to welcome you, call you a brother, and someone who's a part of the Prison Bosses alumni, my man.
Appreciate it, man, because the main factor, man, is us giving back, making a difference in our community, and being able to operate without fear, right? We don't fear because we done already been in situations where we fear everything. We just didn't believe. We didn't have no truth behind anything that we stood on. So now we standing on truth, and we actually aiming that power and those forces by being a voice and not being able to share and being able to produce and sacrifice ourselves to where we're able to be a voice to where people can actually see and understand what's really going on rather than watering it down, man. We don't need anything watered down. We need things to be spoken, and we need to operate without fear of the unknown, because when you operate in fear, then you'll be watered down, man. You'll become a puppet to advice and information that's only suitable to those who is pleasing to the ear, those who in the power. But we don't want that credit from those who are in power. We want credit from those who is in power when they tend to sit back and they listen to us understanding what's really going on, to where we're able to implement systems that benefits our community, not take away from our community.
That's a fact. And so, Brother Willie, where can our listeners, if they wanted to get in touch with you, where would they be able to find you? Can they find you? Do you have social medias?
Man,
Is there an email address?
I just came on the social media platform, man. I'm actually, I have a Facebook page. I have a Facebook page. I kind of been taking it easy. But yeah, Facebook, it's Willie Cooks Jr. on Facebook. You can reach out to me on Facebook. You can email me at willie.cooks44@gmail.com. And we can continue building, man. We continue building. I'm still learning. I'm still educating myself, and I'm receptive to learning. And I'm actually receptive to being able to build bridges to where I can be a voice to make a difference.
There it is. And so, and I could tell you guys, this is no cap. Ever since I met Willie, that's one of the biggest things he said is, man, I just like learning. I want to learn. I'm a sponge. And as you can hear through his testimony, that's no cap. Like, he's continued to learn throughout his journey. There's no doubt in my mind he's going to continue to learn and continue to be a resource. And so for that reason, again, we thank you, Willie, for being here with us today, sharing your jewels, your knowledge, your insights. We appreciate your continued hard work and the way you're uplifting and helping others, man. And so, again, much love to you.
Man, I thank you. I appreciate you, brother. You continue doing your good work, because what your platform is able to do is give a person a voice and give someone who the opportunity to be able to hear those things in which they may need. It's the strength that you have behind you that gives you the ability to keep doing what you're doing, being able to give brothers like me an opportunity to be a voice as well, man. So I most definitely have to give you your flowers as well.
Appreciate that. That's love, man. That's much love. And so, guys, as we close out this episode today, I want to encourage you guys to definitely go back and spin the block on this one. Check this one out again. Listen to Willie's story, but even more so, listen to the jewels that he provides with. He gives you a blueprint of things that each and every one of us can do to incorporate to better ourselves, to reposition ourselves and elevate ourselves. And so for that, I'm very much grateful. I'm hopeful that you enjoyed today's episode. And as always, stay safe, stay motivated, and continue to pour into yourself. You got to be a little greedy, because like they say on the airplane, when the mask drops, you got to put the mask on yourself first before you can help anybody else out.
That's right.
And today we're encouraging you to put that mask on yourself before you try to help anybody else out. And so much love. We appreciate you for tuning in, and peace and blessings to everybody. Today's Mother's Day, so happy Mother Day to all the moms out there. Much love to all of the moms that are out there. Much love for all you've done for us. We love y'all.
Love, man, love.
Definitely, bro.
All right.
Appreciate you.
You too.